everyone. Today we are starting a very important topic, the rise of militarist Japan. There are two major questions we want to answer. One, why did Japan modernize so rapidly after 1868? And two, why did many Japanese people later lose trust in their civilian government? Now, one very unique thing about Japan is its emperor. The Japanese believe that their empress descended from the sun goddess Amaterasu. What's even more remarkable is this. Japan claims an unbroken imperial line stretching all the way back to Emperor Jimmu, a legendary emperor believed to have ruled more than 2,000 years ago. And according to Japanese tradition, the current emperor today, Emperor Naruhito, also known as Emperor Reiwa, can trace his lineage all the way back through the same imperial family line. This makes Japan the world's oldest continuing hereditary monarchy. Now, whether every part of the ancient lineage is historically proven is debated by historians. But what's important is this. Many Japanese deeply believe in the sacred status of the emperor. Before 1868, Japan had a very different political system from modern democracies today. At the top of Japanese society was the emperor. The emperor was deeply respected and seen as sacred because many Japanese believed the imperial family descended from the sun goddess. However, although the emperor stood at the top of the social hierarchy, he did not hold real power. Real power was actually controlled by the shogun, a military ruler. The shogun controlled the government, military, and administration of Japan. So, in reality, the emperor symbolized authority, but the shogun exercised actual power. This system was known as the shogunate. The last shogunate before 1868 was the Tokugawa shogunate. Society was organized into strict social classes, and loyalty and obedience were extremely important. Instead of a national army or navy, the Tokugawa shogunate had samurai. They were warrior elites who served the shogun and regional lords. They used traditional weapons such as katanas, bows, and spears, and followed a strict warrior code known as Bushido. At the same time, Japan was also highly isolated from the outside world. Foreign influence was heavily restricted. Most foreigners were banned from entering Japan. The Japanese were also not allowed to travel overseas. The shogun believed isolation would help preserve stability and protect traditional Japanese culture. But this isolation also meant Japan was falling behind many Western countries in technology and military strength. Now, I want you to pause the video here and try this short fill in the blanks activity yourself. Once done, continue the video. Let's check the answers together. From around 1600 to mid-1800, real power in Japan lay in the hands of the shogun. The shogunate was a military government. The emperor was merely a figurehead. Under the Tokugawa shogunate, Japan was isolated from the rest of the world. Christianity was banned, and the Japanese were prohibited from making and returning from trips overseas. Doing so was punishable by death. Foreign powers were almost entirely banned from any interactions with Japan, with the exception of Dutch and the Chinese. You would have come across this very interesting picture when you studied Year 2 history. In the 1800s, the weak and corrupt Qing government was forced open by Western powers and made to sign unfair treaties. Japan looked carefully at what was happening to China in the 1800s. To Japan, China looked weak and unable to defend itself. Then, in 1853, Commodore Perry from the United States arrived at Japan with gunboats. This shocked Japan badly. Think about this question carefully. If you were a Japanese leader at the time, what would you do? Would you continue isolation or modernize rapidly to become stronger? Well, Japan realized if they were to remain weak and backward, they may suffer the same fate as China. Thus, Japan chose rapid modernization to avoid meeting the same fate as China. In 1868, the Meiji Restoration took place. Power was restored to Emperor Meiji, and Japan modernized very quickly. The main aim is to modernize and strengthen Japan so that it would not end up like China. Now notice three major areas of modernization. Politically, Japan became a constitutional monarchy and created a parliament called the Diet. The Diet was led by a prime minister. The emperor remained powerful, but he was now helped by a group of elder statesmen known as the general who advised him. Economically, factories, railways, banks, and trade expanded rapidly. Another important feature of modern Japan was the rise of zaibatsu. Zaibatsu were giant business empires controlled by wealthy families. These companies became extremely rich and powerful and worked closely with the government. Militarily, instead of samurai, Japan built a modern, Western-style army and navy. Conscription was introduced. Within a short time of modernization, Japan's army and navy won impressive battles against China and Russia, winning over numerous territories and became a strong power in the region. In short, within a very short time, not only did Japan not end up with the same fate as China, Japan in fact transformed into a modern power. We talk about the concept of zaibatsu in Japan's economic modernization. Some of these still exist in Japan today. The Sumitomo Group, Mitsui Group, and the Mitsubishi Group. These are powerful companies that you must have heard of recently. This idea of a giant family-controlled conglomerate still exists in Southeast Asia as well. For example, Thailand's CP Group controls many industries across Southeast Asia. As mentioned earlier, Japan modernized very quickly, and within a short time, its modern army and navy won several battles against China and Japan. This made Japan's military highly respected. Japan defeated China in 1895, gaining control over Taiwan and the Liaodong Peninsula. Then, in 1905, Japan defeated Russia, becoming the first Asian country in modern history to defeat a major European power. It also gained territories such as Korea and Manchuria, which is part of northeast China. Imagine how proud the Japanese people must have felt. The military increasingly became admired, respected, and influential. This timeline shows the broad development of Japan. During the Meiji period, Japan modernized rapidly. After Meiji Emperor's death, his son, Emperor Taisho, took over. But during the Taisho period, problems started emerging. Many people began losing trust in the civilian government. So, to summarize, Japan modernized because it feared becoming weak like China. Modernization made Japan richer, stronger, and more powerful, especially its military. In the next video, we'll explore why the civilian government later became weak and unpopular.